Good evening. It is 6:03 on Thursday, May 9th, and I would like to call this regular meeting of the Board of Education to order and ask that everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Dr. Cabana,
Present.
Mr. Krim,
Present.
Mr. Lopez, Mrs. Moore,
Present.
Dr. Nibars Martinez,
Present.
Mr. Novisky,
Present.
Dr. Rodriguez, Ms. Williams, Mrs. Willis.
Present.
Quorum is present.
Thank you. Next, I would like to see if there are any additions to the agenda, colleagues, tonight. Seeing none, let's see if there's any public comment on agenda items. None this evening. We don't have any other business deemed necessary, but we do have our evening of visual learning boards as our first presentation. So this is our information study session. And this evening, we are going to do our visual learning boards around the room. We'll have our health and wellness update by Dr. Sue Wheeler, and then we will talk about grants. But before I turn it over to Ms. Benavides to kick us off for the learning boards, I am going to ask a board member to read our district mission statement, which I am going to call Dr. Kavanaugh this evening.
Sure. The mission of the Lansing School District is to provide a high-quality education in a culturally safe and nurturing environment that supports all students to live purposeful and fulfilling lives.
Thank you. And I will have to remember Ms. Trustee Moore goes next, since she was chairing the last meeting that she called on Dr. Rodriguez. I'll make sure I circle back to you. Great. So, with that being done, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Benavides. Did I lose her? Oh, there she is.
All right, good evening, everyone. Had to make sure the microphone was working. This is my favorite board meeting of the month. They're all wonderful, but this is my favorite. So this is the time of the month again where we get to see our visual learning boards from each of our schools. Tonight we are showcasing Sexton, Luton, Kavanaugh, Gardner, Geyer Park, and Capital Area K-12 online. So very excited to see what is in store for us. We have lots of families here, teachers, and so we'll be very excited to tour the room. This is a wonderful addition, so you can see all of the visual learning boards for those of you that are not able to be here in the boardroom, kind of cycling through. We have the pictures of those, so our viewers, even at home, will be able to see the boards that we have in the boardroom this evening. So we thank the comms department for putting that together for us. So without further ado, I don't think I have to explain how this works. We've done it enough times now. If the board members will please join us, find a board, and then we will cycle through about two and a half minutes per board and cycle through so that you're able to see all 6 of them. We do have two new art installations from various schools, so please stop by and take a look at those as well. Thank you.
Superintendent, have a comment?
Sorry, just for anybody else in the audience, feel free to also be part of this. If you're not necessarily associated with the school, please be part of this. We love this. We want to share this with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe. I mean, that'd be cool. I mean.
Mic check.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for our gallery walk this evening. If you can please kind of find your way to your seats. Thank you. Can we all have a round of applause for our wonderful teachers and students and their work this evening?
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the students who were here tonight and brave enough to talk to a room full of adults about your work. Thank you to the parents and the teachers and the principals and everyone that was here. Ms. Benavides, I have to agree, I love this night as well. Next, we are going to do our health and wellness update, so I'm going to invite Dr. Sue Wheeler. Oh, because your mic's not working.
Thank you. I have a pleasant report tonight, so I'll jump right in. She says confidently. This adds to the suspense a little, so. There we are. That's it? I'm good. Okay, thank you. April was a great month for COVID reporting, with only 5 staff cases reported, 1 in each of the locations here, with excellent mitigation with no apparent transmission within the buildings. Student cases were also at an all-time low, with only 7 cases reported, again with no apparent transmission between buildings. Although Wexford had 2 cases, they were unrelated. COVID has declined since February, with a total of only 12 cases reported in April, falling below our previous low of 16 cases back in August. Quite a drop from our high of nearly 300 cases in December. To date, our school year 23-24 totals are 1,008 cases of COVID reported. Conversely, the Student Development Program continues to trend in an upward direction. We opened the center in late March of 23, and you'll see at the top there, between March and August last year, a 5-month period, we had 2,290 session participants. In April alone, our attendance for sessions was 2,540 students. The program has become a center for physical, emotional, and academic growth for students across the district. Your support of the Student Development Program has really been instrumental in enriching the lives of students and impacting their overall academic achievement, physical, social, and emotional health. Our summer programming has been identified with services from 11 a.m. until 5 p.m. Monday through Thursday, with an open gym on Fridays between 11 and 1. Open gym being one of our most popular sessions we offer. This summer, we are partnering with the Northwest Initiative to offer a hands-on gardening and nutrition program. We hope to add a greenhouse very close to the field house, so students will have the hands-on experience needed. The Todd Martin Youth Leadership Group will also return this summer with tennis instruction, and esports will move into the summer as well. Another popular district program continues to be the BIPOC Care Closet. The closet was open to all Lansing School District students throughout the school year. Our final ordering period was with orders through April 29th. This year, we were able to fill 4,072 orders. We hope to reopen the closet in August in time for back-to-school needs. The Accessible Period project that we talked about last month has also been a great success. The products have been distributed to all schools for easy access for students. In addition, our nurses and medical assistants held a drive-through event at the Halleck Center on April 10th, where we distributed over 160 bags to students, and on May 2nd at Everett, where we had 57 students come for a drive-through event. Students may also just simply stop by the health clinic in any building to pick up a month's supply of period products completely hassle-free. On April 26th, we participated in Global Youth Service Day with our AmeriCorps partners to build 4 raised garden beds and teach children how to make eco-friendly bird feeders with vegetable shortening, bird seed, and pine cones. The garden beds were completed and filled with dirt, ready to be filled with vegetable plants. The students were very happy to build their own bird feeders. We're thankful for the young adults who participated in the Global Youth Service Day, along with our Sodexo Stop Hunger Foundation Youth Service Award grant, which provided us the funding for all of the materials for this exciting day. I invite you to stop by Forest View and see the new garden beds and perhaps some birds feasting on the leftover bird seed. Another terrific event was a health fair that was held at Sexton just this past week in cooperation with our Eaton-Risa School Health Coordinator, Christina Holmes, and many other community partners. Students were offered the opportunity to come by before or during their lunchtime and visit tables to pick up information and resources for teens. More than 150 students chose to attend the health fair. It was a great success. And finally, as we head into Mother's Day weekend, it's a good time to express our thanks for those who nurture, guide, teach, and protect children everywhere, at school and at home. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a good update. Thank you. First question to Vice President Moore.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Wheeler. I have a question about the tutoring program that's offered with the student development program for this summer. Could you expound a little bit more about that? What does it look like?
Sure.
Yeah.
During the school year, we partner with Michigan State, and we have students come and do tutoring with our students. In the summer, we have 2 teacher positions that we bring teachers in for those hours that we had listed on the brochure. There's 2 days a week that they'll meet with students. They can help students really across the board. The primary interest seems to be credit recovery, helping high schoolers who are really trying to either get on track for graduation or stay on track.
Okay. I have another question about the accessible period product drive. Quality is very important, and I'm just curious, do we purchase those items? Are they donated? I would even like a bag if I could have one, just
Absolutely. We'd be
Yeah.
happy to share that with
Thank you.
We actually purchased the products through a grant with the MDE, and they provided initially a list for us of these are approved vendors, and quality was essential. We also have surveyed students now that they've received the products. We've gotten good feedback and some not so good feedback about some of the products. And for our final ordering, which we did about 3 weeks ago, we took that feedback and adjusted our order. So we're getting the products that the students are asking for.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Good afternoon, Ms. Wheeler. How are you?
Thank you.
Good. A couple of questions. So, with the COVID numbers going down, are we seeing an uptick in any other illnesses such as flu, pneumonia, or anything like that?
You know, it's really good to take credit for low numbers of COVID, but this is the time of year that pretty much respiratory illnesses, airborne illnesses tend to be at their lowest. We have lots of fresh air, windows are open, people are outdoors. So no, we have not seen an increase in flu or really any other communicable disease right now. We hope to just get through till June 7th and keep everybody healthy.
You did answer one of my questions, telling us the locations of the bird feeders and the garden things, so thank you for that. And then my final question, with the student development program, which I do love, are the numbers, let me figure out. So is this for, the numbers are based on each time a child, so say my child goes 3 weeks in September, but don't return it until October, then he goes the whole month. Is he counted each one of those times he enters the building and enter the program, or is it just we have a profile on file once he registers, that's it?
They need to sign up each time they come. They choose which sessions or activities they'd like to do. And then that's where these numbers are coming from.
Okay.
Not someone that maybe came in September, they won't show up in the April numbers. These are clearly people who are coming during that reporting period.
Okay, during that reporting period. That's what I needed clarification on. Thank you so much for that.
And I would caution you about the bird feeders. We had initially thought, well, we will have these all hanging around the garden beds. The children had other ideas, which was to take them home.
Okay. So
yes.
it's not going to be many, I can see.
So you will see the lovely raised garden beds and lots of bird seed on the ground, but you will not see the pine cones. They really were determined to take them home, and we didn't have the heart to say no. So.
Thank you.
Dr. Navarez-Martinez?
Yes, so I know we've kind of talked about this a little bit before, but I appreciate that we ended with Happy Mother's Day and appreciating folks who, nurture and guide our students. And kind of going back to the BIPOC closet and also the accessible period products, I know that the products that are there are for the students, right? But is there a way for us to maybe try and identify some funding so that we can also provide for folks who maybe their parents would need some of these items. It's not very good for student learning if your parents can't meet their basic needs, right? And so kind of looking into maybe some of that would be, I think, great.
We do look for grants that way. We've also at the Student Development Program, you might remember before, we've become a food site with the Greater Lansing Food Bank, and we do have parents that bring kids to the center. They can come in, we have a table with bags there, they can just help themselves to what they'd like, so we are helping in that way. And frankly, with the accessible period products, they are designated for students. Students come in and they can have 20 products per month, and we do not have any questions about what bags they're using.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that, if the student has a period, they also need them, right? And
Correct.
so,
Correct.
yeah, they need more. Thank you.
Yes, that's a great idea to expand for families.
I wonder if we could even partner with an existing program, the Helping Women's Period program, that existing nonprofit, and then see if that access to that, instead of maybe reinventing it or, just having the access to an existing
And
partnership.
actually, we do partner with them, and they helped with this accessible period project. Initially, the funding was you could only provide the products, but nothing to carry the products home and, to keep track of. So the Helping Women Period, they called us and said, we'd love to partner with you. We'll provide you the bags you need for your kids to take the products home. So it's really a nice partnership already.
Oh, great. Ms. Williams, yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Correct. It's pretty much, the students may choose the products they'd like. There's a selection of products. There's pads, tampons, etc. So the student, whatever their personal preference is, they can choose those products. Yeah. This is a restriction from the grant. They determine the number of products that the students could have. Yeah, so, yes.
All right. Oh, sure. Mr. Lopez?
Thank you, Madam President. So, thank you for the report. It's really nice to see this happening. The Sexton Health Fair, was that in conjunction with the clinic there, or was it?
It was actually set up in the cafeteria, in the back section of the cafeteria there. And then we had other community partners come in. We had LCC, Ellie's Place, the Ingham County Health Department, places that would have services that would be applicable to teens. We had our Director of Mental Health went to the event and provided information about the therapy services that we have available. And the students could go through, stop at each of the tables and the vendors, and learn about what services were available.
Well, on an ongoing basis, do you refer students to those clinics at the high schools, at the Sexton or Eastern?
The clinic from the high school participated in the event.
Okay.
But it was not hosted by them per se.
No, I understand that, but throughout the year, that's a resource that we have in the high schools.
Oh, yes.
And you have students coming in with different needs. Do you
Yes.
see a lot of referrals or some referrals from your program to the clinics in the high schools?
The clinic is from the Ingham County Health Department, a student-based health center, and our students who become clients of the clinic or patients of the clinic can use that clinic freely. This is set up to provide convenience, to be easily accessible for the students. So we would primarily see students within the school, not families from the outside as much. They're able to come there, but that would not account for the majority of their numbers. It would be our students within the building.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
See you next month. Yeah, we'll see you one more month, then we'll give you the summer off. All right. That brings us to our next presentation this evening, which is an update on our grant. So I'm going to invite Ms. Kim Adams.
No, it's fine. No, go. Couple of things, because I'm going to sit in that second seat, is just, I know they all left, but really thanks to the families and the teachers and the administrators that were here. We've been now doing this for, 4 months? And just the idea, again, of the district, the board, thinking about student achievement, thinking about instruction, permeating the rooms, that's what we need to do. And you can see that it's tied to state standards, it's tied to high level and rigorous work. And I really want to thank everybody for that. And then second, of course, is to thank Sue. The numbers are getting better. Certainly we have to prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. And we look forward to all the summer programming. And one of the things that Guillermo was saying, I think, to reiterate the ways that we can promote the clinics that we have and the ways that we can promote the services that we have, I think that's something that we can do even more. And so, I know you're sitting next to Ryan, so ways that we can figure that out. And I think to Daya's point is really well taken too, is I was joking with Rachel, I don't know when schools became the government, but we kind of came the government. And it is our job and our responsibility to help everybody, and ways that we can maybe piggyback on certain things where it could be students and families. One example I would give to everybody at the Horseshoe and in the audience is some of our schools have washing machines, and some of our schools have rooms and pantry rooms and things like that. So if there's ways that we can partner with them or not, I think that would be really awesome. So thank you for all the points, all the presentations, and now I'm going to go do some budget with Kim. So thank you.
Good evening. So we have not budget, but grants tonight. Yay. On our agenda this evening, we'll talk about what grants are, the various types of grants, the district impact, our current grant budgets, our district budget, and then we'll open it up for questions. What are grants? Grants are funds that are awarded for specific projects or programs. They're usually awarded based upon merit, project viability, and alignment with the grantor's objectives. They are also often earmarked for specific purposes and come with conditions regarding their use. What types of grants do we have? Local funds and donations, state and federal grants, and competitive grants. Donations and local grants. Donations are given by an individual or an organization, typically for a specific purpose or initiative. Local grants are allocations awarded or passed through other entities and may be allocated for a specific purpose or initiative. Some examples of grants. We have the Regional Assistance Grant, or the RAG grant. That's currently $1 million of our budget. That grant is to improve teaching and learning in high poverty schools, in particular for children failing or most at risk of failing to meet the challenging state academic achievement standards. We also have a pregnancy prevention grant. That grant provides funds to develop, replicate, refine, and test additional models and innovative strategies for preventing teenage pregnancy. Another example of a donation or local grant is the Jackson National, or RIF grant. That grant is to purchase new, high-quality books that support the RIF program. There's also a DART RIF grant to purchase new, high-quality books that support the RIF grant. That one's for $125,000.
Yeah. So a couple of things to add to that. First of all, it was wonderful when we had the presentation of the DART grant. Those are, of course, donations. One thing that I would say publicly is I think we as a district should try to do a better job getting donations. There's a lot of wonderful alumni, wonderful people that care about this district, and I don't know if we do a good enough job reaching out to them. I think people want to come home and help, and that relationship with the DART Foundation through Sergio and through others really came really nicely to RIF and the RIF people. I want to highlight the RAG grant, and I might turn it over to Jess for a little bit. The board had asked for us to do a presentation on grants, which I think is really, really important. It's almost 40% of our entire budget for the district. But sometimes we receive grants that might feel like state grants or federal grants, but they're actually pass-throughs other entities. So the RAG grant is really for the support of our partnership schools. So, you know, we have a series of schools that are not doing well, that the state has highlighted, so we get this extra support. But it's actually not straight from the state. We have to go through the ISD for doing that. So you'll hear me sometimes saying, oh, we have to pay, you know, kind of a VIG. We have to pay like a cost sometimes because it goes through the ISD, GSRP, another thing like that. So the RAG grant is really great. And again, I'll turn it over to Jess. But it seems on paper like a state grant. It's not, because it has to go through the ISD first, and then it comes to us.
So we work really closely with the ISD to create the application for the RAG grant, or the allocations, I should say, for the RAG grant. And so what we have chosen to use the majority of that money for our partnership schools is to hire a 1.0 instructional coach for each of those schools. And in those schools, the instructional coaches then work with the teaching staff to improve instruction and just fine-tune their craft to make sure that we're building our teachers and improving Tier 1 instruction. So that's how we're using the Regional Assistance Grant currently.
And again, as a conversation I had with the board a couple of hours ago, knowing that instruction is something we really want to focus on, how do we use grant money to help support that? Something like the RAG, we then say we want coaches, instructional coaches, to help move that, and it's been helpful. So,
thank you. The next are state and federal grants. State and federal governments award grants for a multitude of purposes. Some grants are delivered directly, but others are pass-through grants that first go to the state governments, who then direct the funds to the local governments. State and federal grant examples, we have Title I, currently $9.3 million of our budget. That grant is to help disadvantaged children meet high academic standards. School-based decision-making, professional development, and parent involvement are important components. Another example is our IDEA flow-through grant. That's $1.6 million. It provides services to children and youth with disabilities. We use that grant to fund about 13 resource room teachers for our district. We also have the Health Resource Advocate, or HRA grant. This brought in $1.3 million. The Health Resource Advocate grant will provide frontline support for COVID-19 testing and reporting, help school districts identify emerging COVID-19 related health concerns, and strengthen best health practices by providing consultation, preventative services, and appropriate public health strategies for the district. The HRA will help to address the greatest needs in the school health, the health and mitigation challenges faced during the COVID-19 pandemic, in addition to other existing and emergent health issues. The HRA grant is used primarily to fund some of our nurses and our MAs. We also have Section 31A at risk. That grant brings in $18 million for the current school year. For the intent and purposes focused on the following student outcomes: attending school regularly, reading proficiency by the end of 3rd grade, being proficient in mathematics by the end of 8th grade, and being career and college ready by high school graduation. We also have a McKinney-Vento grant, $115,000. This grant is to enhance the support provided to children and youth experiencing homelessness within the district.
So again, these are just examples. At the end, we'll give you a list of every grant imaginable. But what's nice about, God bless you, but what's nice about these examples is you're starting to see some federal, some state, and then, some specific ones. So I think we're all aware of Title I. Title I comes from the 1965 Elementary, Secondary, and Schools Act, which was the first time that the federal government really said, we're going to try to give schools a lot of money to help disadvantaged children. And what's really great about this grant is that it's used in conjunction with professional development, even parent outreach, and this money has been really helpful to our schools. The HRA grant, thanks to Cordelia and Sue and the entire Office of Health and Wellness, we have been getting money to pay for extra nurses and medical assistants, and in fact, we're doing so well that that grant will turn over to us, hopefully, and be direct rather than through the ISD. So we had been working with and in conjunction with the ISD, and we've been running it so well that it looks like we might end up doing it ourselves, which will be terrific. I also want to highlight a couple of language things. Typically, when you see Title I, Title II, Title III, those are federal. And then Michigan has a pretty special way of allocating its money, and it's alphabet soup. So it's 31A, you're going to see 23G, you're going to see all these different numbers. Michigan has a tendency to give us the general money and then put a lot of money into specific grants. So the largest one that we really get is 31A, which is at risk. Now, the definition of at risk is really open-ended. Anything from attendance issues to your parents not doing well in school to, you're not doing well in school. There's a whole litany of stuff. And I want to commend Kim's office and Jessica's office. A lot of this is based on how well we do our paperwork to get the money, and the percentages of our kids that qualify, that's based on the kind of back-end work that the staffs do, and that is why you're seeing so much. And the other big shout out I want to give is to the state government. When you see the increase in monies for education, you've seen the general fund go up, but percentage-wise, you've seen things like 31A go up even higher. And what that says to us is that the state is now investing more money in at-risk youth, and we'll see that for the Lansing School District is going to be quite helpful. And so we use this money for all sorts of things to help move our kids forward.
Thank you. Some additional examples are Title III. Title III is designed to assure speedy acquisition of English language proficiency, to assist students to achieve in the core academic subjects and assist students to meet state academic standards. We also have Section 31AA, which is to provide funds for activities to improve student mental health and improve student safety. One of our other largest grants over the past few years has been ESSER, the American Rescue Plan. ESSER 3 is currently $20.8 million of our budget, but the entire allocation was $44.7 million. And this is just for ESSER 3. We had several other ESSER grants. This ESSER 3 fund provides state education agencies and their local educational agencies with emergency relief funds to address the impact that COVID-19 has had and continues to have on elementary and secondary schools across the country. We have more state and federal grants. A couple of these are thanks to Sarah Anthony. Section 99N CTE facility. This brought in $6 million to support the construction or facility improvements of a career technical educational center, to expand secondary learning opportunities for all students, increase the percentage of all students who graduate from high school, and increase the percentage of adults with a post-secondary credential. We also received $500,000 for Section 61R, which is for the Hill Center track. This came from the state school aid fund. It was money appropriated in Section 11. There is allocated for the 23-24 school year an amount not to exceed $500,000 to the Lansing Public School District for the Hill Center track.
So one of the things that I want to highlight is there's a lot of money in the state government that tends to get allocated to districts that have really good relationships with their local elected officials. At an ET meeting this morning, I asked the table, who represents probably 600 years of service to this district, has the district ever gotten individual line items in the budget before? And the consensus was no. And what you're seeing now is, because of our incredible relationship with our local elected officials, who also happen to have positions of power, we're actually getting written into the budget. That is a huge deal. Other districts get this all the time. Waverly gets a pool. Grand Rapids gets who knows what. And so the fact that you're now seeing specific line items, again, it's the state because it's a number and then a letter, and it's a random number and a random letter. So 61R, 99N, you can see that we're finally opening up that sense of we're a good place to spend money for children. And so I want to certainly thank Senator Anthony, but I also want to thank the state government for really recognizing that Lansing has not gotten these kinds of services, and the hope is that throughout the next couple of years we're able to prove our worth and that the money is well spent. But thanks really to this incredible relationship with Senator Anthony, as well as the other contingent, Representative Whitwer, who's also the appropriations chair of the House. It's those relationships that actually help make this happen. And so we're really proud that really for the first time, at least according to ET, that we're being written into the state budget because of direct asks that we've had. So this is a special piece that I wanted to highlight.
I feel really old now. 900 years?
No, I said 600.
Okay. Some additional examples are the Michigan Community Center grant, which is $2 million, to upgrade the gymnasium and associated electrical equipment at the Hill Center. The EPA Clean School Bus Competitive Grant, $5.9 million, for 15 electrical buses and chargers for the district. Also, we received $100,000 as an Energy Class Prize grant for being energy champions leading the advancement of sustainable school prize. The funds were to pay for the salary and training of a district energy savings champion.
So just again to highlight, we're starting to really engage in green initiatives, as the board knows, as the public knows, and thanks to our consultants and our supporters, we've already brought in over $8 million, and on track, I think we've got millions and millions coming more. Something that, just to highlight, is not a grant per se, but with 4 of our schools receiving the extra 10% monies for going green with solar, we're probably going to bring in another $1 million or so just in offsetting expenses to put in new roofs, et cetera, et cetera. So my hope is that this list starts to get really long, but again, these are the kind of state and federal grants that we can be a part of as the state and the country move towards a more green future.
Next, we have competitive grants. These are awarded through a competitive application process. Applicants submit proposals detailing information about their organization or project, including the problem they want to solve, the proposed solution, the budget, and the expected outcomes. Some examples are our TEAMS grant, which has brought in $4.2 million this year. This was a 5-year grant, total of $14 million being brought into the school district. This grant is tactics to expand access to mental health supports, i.e. TEAMS, mental health therapy and counseling services, supplies, and training services. We also have our Magnet grant, which is bringing in $3.9 million this year. This also was a 5-year grant, a total of $18 million being brought into the district. This grant was to establish and operate magnet schools with special curricula to attract a diverse group of students and disintegrate I can't even read, desegregate public schools. Sorry about that. We also have our REAP, $10.7 million this year. It's a 3-year grant, a total of $19 million brought into the district. The REAP grant is rewarding educator achievement and performance. The intent was to improve the quality of education, elevate educator effectiveness, raise student achievement, and increase equity in learning. Another one of our competitive grants is the STOP grant that has brought in $511,000 this year. It's a 3-year grant, $1 million grant. This one is to stop school violence. It has a mobile phone application to identify threats of school violence, B, adopt behavioral threat assessments and protocol, and C, provide active shooter training. Another one of our competitive grants is the READ grant. This one was a 5-year grant for a total of $2.3 million, and this year's allocation is $912,000. The READ Explore and Discover grant supports high-quality programs designed to develop and improve literacy skills for children and students K-12. Another example is the STAR grant, $890,000 this year, another 5-year grant for a total of $2.2 million. The School Transformation Accelerates Results grant is to improve school implementation of culturally responsive, positive behavioral interventions and supports, and introduce evidence-based practices that enhance the multi-tiered system of support with social and emotional learning, crisis intervention, outdoor education, life skill development, restorative practices, therapeutic counseling, equine therapy, opioid, drug, and alcohol abuse prevention services, procedures, and professional development.
So there's a lot there. One of the things to highlight, and I want to turn it over to a lot of the ET members that actually help run these grants, you can see almost $60 million of competitive grants, which means that we're able to put together really good applications. We beat out hundreds of other school districts, and we're able to get quite a lot of support for a lot of the great work that we're doing in this district. And you notice that we've won them in 23, 22, 21, 22, 21, 19. So a lot of these things, we're doing them now, which is really quite powerful. But I would say to the ET members that are here, Cordelia, you want to talk a little bit about STOP, and then we'll turn it over to Jess to talk a little bit about REAP, maybe.
Sure. Thank you. So the STOP grant, as it says, it's a federal grant through the Department of Justice, and its focus is to stop school violence. With this grant, we have implemented our RAVE mobile app application system, and then we have implemented our behavioral threat assessment and protocols. So it has really a lot, and to date we've trained approximately 80 staff members across the district on the new behavioral threat assessment and management protocols that we're implementing into the district. And then thirdly, the focus is to implement ALICE. ALICE is an active shooter response training, and so we're really happy about that. In fact, we have a big district-wide professional development on ALICE tomorrow, where we will be in schools providing live active shooter response training. So we're really excited about this grant.
Great.
It's a different grant, she said. So several grants I'd like to highlight up here are not the first iterations of these grants as well. So the Magnet grant we've had for a while. This year we have the Magnet grant started last year, and the identified schools are Forest View and North with an environmental theme, And then we have, of course, the brand new Lansing Technical High School, which is supported by the Magnet Grant, and then Wexford which was one of our very first Magnet grants back in the day with Montessori, and it is coming back to make sure that we are re-upping on our theme for Montessori and getting everyone trained and making sure, because obviously we've had a turnover of staff over the last 20 years, and so getting everyone back up to snuff with training for the Magnet Grant. The REAP grant, this is our second iteration of the REAP grant, and this has been really wonderful for professional development, especially across the district, with a focus on creating really wonderful systems around new educators and supporting new educators with the new educator network. And they had a wonderful orientation process that they've started with HR that has now kind of become a staple of Lansing. So we're really proud of the REAP grant for doing that as well. The READ grant's the last one I'll highlight, and that one is, I believe, on our second or third iteration. And the READ grant is one that really has supported our schools with some instructional coaches, early literacy intervention programs, as well as multicultural books in all of our classrooms.
Yeah, and one of the great things is you see, I mean, this is $60 million. By being in our first iteration, our second iteration, and even by our third iteration, it's showing that the federal government trusts us. I can guarantee you that if you don't do your federal grants well, they don't bring you back for a second time. I also would give a lot of credit to our team as well as the grant writers that help put a lot of this stuff together. But it's been great, and we're really looking forward to how all of these can move and change as the years go on.
Next, we have our district impact. The district's annual 2023-2024 budget per amendment number 1 is $248,578,000. 61.55% is general funded non-grant, or the equivalent of roughly $153 million. 38.45% is comprised of grants, or roughly $95.5 million. These funds are budgeted in accordance with the grant requirements, and typically budgets may only be used for the purposes as approved by the grantor. This slide shows our current grant budgets in graph form. The light blue is the budget. The dark blue is the spent and encumbered as of April 30th. So for our local funding sources, we have $2.2 million in budget and $1.2 million spent. It's important to note that most of these budgets do not have an end date, and they just roll forward until they're fully utilized. The next category is state sources. We have almost $4 million, and $23 million has been spent or encumbered. Again, some of these budgets also roll forward to next year or even future years. So they're doing fairly well with their spending, although I like to see the categories go up a little bit. And the federal sources, we have $60 million worth of budget and $38 million spent and or encumbered. Most of these grants run through September 30th.
Yeah, one thing to just highlight is it's sometimes hard to balance monies that have to end June 30th, and then a lot of grants end September 30th. So we know we can trust Kim. She does a terrific job, and all she ever really wants is for the budgets to be fully spent and finished up. But if you ever, as a board member or even the community, see a discrepancy of $20 million, why haven't we spent it all? A lot of times it's not because it has to be spent by June 30th. Sometimes it's September 30th, or it actually is just rolling. Like, for instance, the $6 million that we received for Hill, that doesn't have to be spent this year. That can be spent for the next couple of years, and so that's why you'll see sometimes that discrepancy.
The other large part of that is that many of these grants cover staff costs, and so staff costs through the end of September, we only encumber through the end of the fiscal year, meaning June. So there's 3 months of wages and benefits that aren't encumbered because they're for next fiscal year. Lastly, I'll show the district budget. So 59% is general fund non-grant, Local grants are comprising about 1%, state grants 16%, and federal grants 24%. And now, any questions?
I see there's a couple questions, but I get to go first. In our packet this evening, we were given a separate PDF that lists all of the grants along with the budget.
Yep, that one's next.
Oh, you want us to wait on that one? Okay, but I actually have a plug to put in for an update for that. It would be great if we could have a column added for when some of those grants do expire. So I know you just explained some of them we get to keep till they're spent, but like, for example, we know ESSER's expires this year. We know some do expire, so if we could get a column added, and I apologize for not thinking of that ahead of tonight, because I could have just asked for it before.
No, that's okay.
And then my other question is just to clarify, for competitive grants, some of those could be state or local, federal
is
funded, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and again, sometimes we'll get a federal grant that is just per capita, right? Title I we're going to get as long as Title I exists,
Even
but
though
something.
it's-
Right, exactly. And then some of the grants, and what we're really proud of is something like a Magna grant, everybody doesn't get. You've got to apply, you've got to win it, you've got to keep on doing the work. So that's why you'll see that difference. And what's interesting is that we're starting to see Michigan, which almost never does competitive grants, starting to get into that as well, because typically something like 31A, that's not competitive, it's just the number of kids per, but now they're starting to look at some competitive grants, which we're hoping to do well on because we have such a good team for grant writing.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
Dr. Kavanaugh.
Hi, Kim. Thank you so much for this great presentation. I was wondering if you could speak more to the mechanism through which you identify competitive grants. How widely do you cast the net? What is the search process?
Sure, it's pretty wide actually. We have a competitive grant director, Nikki McSee, and she's constantly looking for new grants. She's a member of many federal organizations, and so she finds grants that way. We also have our partnership with the grants that are being written for us, goodness gracious, EduShift, and they often bring us grants. GreenLink brought us many, and then sometimes it's just Ben saying, hey, I heard about this one at a meeting. So.
And the one thing, yeah, the ET hates when I go to a conference because basically I'm like, I just heard about this grant. We need to win it. But what I will say on the flip side, and I have to give a lot of credit to really the board and to ET, we don't go after grants we don't need. Is that it's really important to only focus on not the shiny bauble, not that new thing, but the things that we care about. So at-risk kids, absolutely. Mental health supports, absolutely. We're not applying for every grant that comes our way, but it's really helpful to cast a wide net with that focus. You don't know when the next at-risk grant's going to come from, so you got to look throughout. But we've been trying really hard to not go after grants just for money. It has to fit with the goals from the board, the goals from the district, et cetera.
And just one more thing. To what extent do you ever consider foundation-type grants, which are usually associated with research? So I'm thinking, for example, the Spencer Foundation funds education research. And some of the things we've discussed here today, so for example, Dr. Navarez-Martinez was talking about an exit survey that we then analyze. Rather than devoting our own manpower to said survey, we could perhaps get funding from a private foundation that does education-related research to help us get that project off the ground. So just something to consider. I don't know if this is really a question, but just something to consider is looking into private foundation sources of funding as well and thinking creatively about how what we're already doing can be considered a research grant.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
And I would just ask our learned professors on the council to help us with that because, we joke and you're 100% right. Sadly, that doesn't happen as often as you would think from a K-12 perspective. And so I think it would be very beneficial because we want to study what we're doing. But I will say this, and this is, I guess, my own personal thing. One of the issues that Lansing has, and I'll say this publicly, not that anybody's listening, is almost every other large city in Michigan has a foundation. If you think of Flint, they have Mott. When you think of, Grand Rapids, they've got all sorts of stuff. When you think of Detroit, you've got, Gilbert and Illich and all those folks. You've got, Battle Creek is Kellogg. Lansing doesn't have that. And I think it would be great if we started to really think about how do we get philanthropy to start to really focus on Lansing. And maybe one of the ways is to start doing some research and showing the great work that we're doing, reaching out to Spencer or whatever to see what we can do. So I really appreciate that point.
Thank you. Dr. Navarro-Martinez?
Yes, so I see that in our federal grants, we have the McKinney-Vento grant, and so that's one of those, like, as long as that exists, we're going to get it. But I wondered, how is it that is calculated, that we get $115,000?
I actually cannot answer that for you right now.
Okay, all right.
I can. So it is. There's a couple of issues, and actually Cordelia is a real expert on this too, is you have to go and highlight the number of children. Right. And unlike 31A, which is kind of easier to find because sometimes it rolls over or it's certain people that get certain services that we can just roll. The number of kids in McKinney-Vento every year starts from 0, and you've got to go out and count them. And it's really hard because a lot of times families don't want to say necessarily that they're homeless. And one other thing about McKinney-Vento is the definition of homeless that one might think in general is somebody on the street. That's not what this means. It could be that you're living with your grandma or you're doubling up. And so, thanks to Cordelia and her office, they have to kind of start again every year and go. And certainly it's based on the per capita kid that we've got. But Cordelia, if you want to add or.
Thank you. You hit it. You hit bullseye. You did a great job. I really don't have anything else to add. I would agree that it is kind of frustrating that you have to start at 0 every year, but you have to follow the rules, and it forces us to go strong every year, and we can't stop, right? This is part of the conversation I often have with superintendent is that that go hard has to be all year, because we know our students are out there, and then really helping to the main thing about this entire grant and the services that we can provide is breaking down those barriers and stereotypes. So it's just really hard for families to come forward. So whatever we can do to help them feel comfortable enough to raise their hand, we're doing it. So.
Yeah,
how are we counting? Or is it like a survey as we're like beginning of the year, or how?
It's they can self-identify in our enrollment application. We are at tons of community events, so we have QR codes, we have flyers in restrooms for students. Every event we're at, we go out and do presentations for community organizations, so that maybe they know a family member, or they can just pass that information along. So students can self-identify, parents can identify. Our staff are all trained on how to identify. So yeah.
Great, thank you.
And one, just because you brought it up, talking to some nonprofits who also are in this world, partnering with them at a meeting this week, actually, with Child Family Services about how they could maybe help support getting that. Because we don't want to stigmatize. We always want to support. We love our folks. But if there's ways that we can get support for them, all the better.
Yeah. I bring it up because this is the work that I do. My research is all on like doubled up homelessness, and so if there are going to be meetings, I'd be happy to attend and help in any way that I can.
That'd be awesome.
Thank you. Mr. Lopez?
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Mr. Superintendent, because I think we did have that conversation early on, because the district would apply for grants. Then the grant would be done, and we had 3 or 4 or 5 people that didn't have a job, and that was always a big problem with this district. So I'm really glad that you said what you said. We don't go for the money; we go for things that we need. And my position was that go for grants that will enhance what we have instead of trying to, bring another program that's this 3-year duration, and then what are we going to do? Can we support it? So I guess that's the only thing that I can say. Whatever money you go for, make sure that that's sustainable after the grant is gone. Because, we also leave our kids without a good counselor, somebody they got used to, a good person, and so it's not good for the students.
That's right.
If we do that. So
Yeah, and
I appreciate that. I just want to say
Thank
that.
you, and I want to add to it before you. One of the things that always makes me nervous, and Kim hears me say this all the time, is so much of our budget is grants. The fact that almost 40% is grants is a lot. It's very high, and it's something that we are very, very cognizant of. But what's nice is we've really tried to make sure that we don't come off those fiscal cliffs, because I remember, and I thank you for having that conversation with me early on, because the last thing you want, in fact, you might remember, one of the first things that was presented to me, Jessica remembers, second week on the job, so Ben, you're going to have to get rid of 37 people. And I was like, what are you talking about? Well, some grant had ended. They hadn't really figured it out. And so we tried to save as many as we could and do all that. But it's all about setting up grants so that when they end, either you can wrap everybody in, or you've been so thoughtful as to say, look, it's a 2-year program. We're not going to continue on. And so I really appreciate that. And so I would, as a board member, I would look at that 60-40 ratio and say that's pretty high. But the good news is a couple things. One, I don't think Title I is going away. I don't think 31A is going away. And those are our big grants. But with ESSER, and a lot of credit has to go to Kim and the team, is the money that we used for ESSER was a lot of one-off things, right? That's how we made the teachers whole. That was really helpful, but it was a one-time thing. There are districts in Michigan, Ann Arbor, that is in real trouble right now because they are not necessarily doing what they need to do fiscally. And you'll hear this conversation of a fiscal cliff. We're not there. We are smooth sailing for this fiscal cliff because of exactly what you pointed out, Guillermo, is making sure that that money goes. So, for instance, one of the big ESSER things, we were able to pay the dean contract. Well, it's not like we're going to fire Dean, for the busing. We have the money set up. It was just a way to save some money. It's not like we hired a bunch of people just on ESSER. If we did that, at the end of the year, we would probably be in a situation. So I want to thank the board for really being thoughtful about that, and certainly ET for making it happen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Rodriguez?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you very much for the presentation. There are grants that are specific for some specific students, some specific goals. What about Title I and Section 31A are more general? Then how we allocate this money?
It's a great question. So I'm going to answer a little, and then I'm going to let Jessica talk a little bit about it. So a couple of things. When you're given grant money and it's specific, you want to figure out if you can be as general with it as possible. Title I allows you to basically spend money on anything that is extra, right? So one of the interesting rules is that kindergarten in Michigan is not mandated. Full-time kindergarten is not mandated. So because it's not automatic, you're allowed to use Title I to help. We have full-day kindergarten. It's great. They're certified teachers. They're in our schools, but we're able to use Title I for that. Even though Title I is supposed to be specific, you think, oh, isn't kindergarten what everybody... Actually, in Michigan, kindergarten isn't like that. We also use it for our public safety officers. We use it for instructional specialists. We use it for anybody, and we try to use it on people as much as possible. Somebody going into that class to help that kid. And that's really, really powerful. So Title I is one of those things that you got to know the rules because they will stop you if you use it inappropriately. But things like kindergarten, instructional specialists, et cetera. But Jess, I don't know. I mean, you've been dealing with Title I for years.
I would just say, as far as meeting our goals, it's something that each of the schools does throughout the school year. The MyKit process, which is our Michigan Continuous Improvement process, And so throughout the school year, they base their decisions on data. So you're looking at, is literacy the area where we need support? Is it math? Do we need after-school tutoring? Do we need professional development for our teachers? And so they go through each year, look at their data. We also walk them through their data with the meetings that we have with our instructional division, and that is really how they make those critical budget decisions, is based on data. For example, one of the positions that we've added recently is a dean of students. That's in our 31A or Title I, and that's based on discipline data, right? Do students need more behavioral support? Some schools have opted for that, others have not. Some have included mental health supports if they feel that's a need at their school. But as far as reaching the goals, that's always the Michigan continuous improvement process is based on our attendance goal, our SEL and CRPBIS goal, and of course, most importantly, is our academics or achievement goals. And so all of the money is based on those. And once the budgets are turned into KIM and they've been reviewed, all of that gets entered into the Nexus system, which links with MyKIP. And then the state looks at our plan and how it aligns to our funding. And so that way we're achieving our goals through the allocation of the funds.
And I am glad you mentioned data, because how we can, some of these grants mandate evaluations. And, having all this good for every child, how we can, I want to improve, that is my question, okay? How evaluating what we are doing with this money can improve the next year.
Yeah, some things like 31A or Title I don't have the kind of evaluative thing. They don't say, oh, your test scores didn't go up, so we won't take the Title I from you. But I think the point is really well taken is, are we using the money well? And I think that's how we tie it with our attendance rates and our graduation rates and our enrollment rates and test scores, et cetera. And this also goes back to something we talked about earlier in closed session, school-based budgeting. Is that what Jessica was alluding to is they look at the data. Are there students that are struggling? Are there kids not meeting proficiency? Then the principal says, well, we say, what do you need? Well, actually, we really need a math coach. Great. What grant money do you have that we can spend that for? And so that's where I think you're starting to see principals and teachers through their SIT teams really thinking of the budget not as it just has to be plugged in here. It's what is our need based on the data from the principal, from the district, and doing that. So I have to commend Kim from leading it on the budget side, but then the rest of ET from leading it on the kind of academic side. So it's great.
Thank you. Mr. Lopez.
Yep. So there's a word around there like replace or supplement.
Mm-hmm.
So this title monies cannot supplement general fund activities, right?
Right.
So that's where they have to make the distinction.
That's right.
It's not a general fund activity. It's
That's
addition to.
That's right.
Okay.
You supplement and supplant.
Yeah,
You can add to it, but you can't replace it.
You can't, right.
That's exactly right. And that's where we have to get creative by putting those kids first to say, what is the extra things that they need? Should we use title money for it? Oh, this is regular. I'm the third grade teacher. We have to use general for it. And that way, by, again, moving all of the dollars under Kim, we're able to have that holistic conversation rather than there was one office over here and one office over here.
Thank you. Mr. Nowinski?
Yes, thank you. I just want to echo the comments before about the fiscal cliff ideas and wanting the timelines to be able to see when are we going to have to make those decisions. And then to expand on identifying grants, are there situations where you come across grants and you need the board to act to maybe start a project or implement something, or you need something on our end in order to qualify or compete or even win that grant? Are there any maybe we didn't win that there's something we could do to better position ourselves for?
Well, first of all, thank you for the question. I love that the board wants to help in that manner. Typically, no. I don't think I've ever seen a grant that's kind of board contingent. Unlike you wonderful people, there are many boards that can not get out of their own way, and I think that most of the federal stuff isn't contingent on that. But I will say, and this is very important for this board, sometimes having board support can make or break a grant. And so I think what we would always lean on you for instance, if we're applying for a grant, something we're working on now with this U.S. senator, trying to get some money for a program, they're going to ask for things like letters of support. Those are something that a board member, board president could write, or because you're all leaders of the community, get other leaders of the community to write a letter like that. So that's usually how it works for us.
And then I had a couple questions looking at the donation aspect, and you talked about trying to get more engagement from, alumni, community members, et cetera. I'm curious if there's been any thought to like specific campaigns or what the district can do to create, so to speak, an endowment or something like that, whether it's managed by the district or by the community foundation. Any efforts in that area?
So it is legally possible. The district does have a foundation arm that is now within the confines of the promise. So there was something called LEAF, which I'm sure many of the board members were part of or active on it. That is an entity. So there's a bank account and there's a legal way to raise money. That organization has not been as active, let's say, over the last decade. And so I think, as I mentioned, this would be kind of a perfect opportunity to use that vehicle as a way to maybe bring people in. So a lot of times what a school district will have is a foundation that's separate, but that can help then fund a new playground or a new this or a new that. So, if people listening, if anybody's got a lot of money, please write us a check. But, the idea that we could help to do some capital campaigns or things like that. But the other thing that I will suggest, certainly to anybody listening, is that's also where bond votes come in. So just this week, 4 districts in the area had a bond vote. 3 of them passed, and that's the people voting to donate via their taxes. And so I think the more we can do both, the better. But I really appreciate the question.
And then my last question would be more specific on the kind of the micro level of donations. Does this report include small donations, even like to school fundraisers or a booster club, or is that a different topic than what's here?
Thanks for the question. The fundraising accounts actually are considered part of the grants. When I get to the next section, they are what's called the 9,000 grants. So due to changes in how we have to report and record fundraising activities, we had to set them up as a quote-unquote grant so that any unspent funds would automatically roll forward to the next school year and not be intermingled with general non-grant funds.
Okay. I ask because I think the same vein of thinking that if we have a project where a band needs a fundraiser for a trip and we've got that thermometer versus just every parent maybe in that club doing it, if the community at large knew there was a need for this specific thing, that might be a way to engage people on a small dollar level.
No, I appreciate it. And one thing to add is we, the last year and a half, have really started to work closely with Donors Choose. And we've been able to, Sergio's not here, he's our main contact there, but we've been able to raise thousands of dollars. And to your point, we need this specific thing for this specific class. That helps a lot more than saying, just write us a check. And no, I appreciate that.
So I would say on the back of this report, the last page, right above the total is something called student fundraising accounts, and there's over $640,000 in those. We lump them all together.
Are those managed at the district level or by the building principal?
Schools.
School. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, for example, most schools will have one fundraising account for each grade level. Some just have one for the entire school. And some, like the high schools, have them for all of their clubs.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Sure.
I do. I just want to make sure that I understand the student fundraising accounts.
Sure.
So you're saying that each school has part of this fund for their clubs?
Yes.
And activities? Is that what I'm hearing?
Mm-hmm. So for this report, I just merged them all together. But each school, let's say they have 5 grade levels, which, whatever, they would have 5 different potentially fundraising accounts. They all have unique account numbers, and they're all tracked separately. So their kindergarten class, or a expected field trip, or a cheerleading club, or you name it, they all have individual accounts. The funds are tracked separately, and they're all at the school's discretion. The only thing they can't do is buy alcohol or tobacco.
And actually, if I could just ask, if you have questions about that second document, is it possible to let Kim present it? And then we could, it's all good, just so that we can do that. But if there's more questions on the first document, you certainly can answer, or you could just wait and we could do it all, and then we can just answer any questions.
No, I didn't know you were flipping to that one. It's okay.
I thought she said go to the last page.
She did. No, she did.
Oh, specifically to answer
rules.
that question.
You were following the rules. I just,
All right, why don't we do that? Why don't we flip to the second part of the presentation?
So before Kim says this, I want to again thank the board. One of the board members had asked for a dashboard. Like, couldn't we create like a dashboard for grants? So this is early stages, right? You just did it, but Kim did some terrific work here on trying to create dashboards for the board as well as the public around some of these grants.
So this is our first stab at it. A couple of these graphs are same as what you saw on the other slide. It just so happened that tonight came at a perfect opportunity. What we started doing is just listing all of our active grants. So some of our grants ended already, or most of them were September 30 ending grants. They're not reflected on here. The only thing on here is current grants that are being utilized. And so we started listing them all with all of the budget. And then for the next time I present this, I will have end dates. But the point is we want to create a dashboard on our website. And so hopefully when I'm done working with Ryan, it'll be visible to everybody. They'll be able to click on, say, local funding sources and then see a listing of all of our grants, maybe even spent to date. I'm not sure about that part yet, but definitely the budget. And then as we work through this, we hope to fine tune it over the next couple of months. So I don't want to read through every single grant, but you can see we have quite a bit of active grants. And again, most of the competitive ones, you'll see those on the second page and third pages. Those do run through September 30th. And so thank you for the suggestion of ending or adding the end date, because that'll be easier for you to see. Is there any questions when you looked at this? Is the format kind of what you were hoping to see, or do you have different ideas?
And, we can certainly add to it. I like the idea of this being a learning tool for all of us. In addition, just to highlight, in the presentation we just gave, we didn't pick all of the grants. What you have on that document is all of the grants. You'll see some of them are very small, some of them are very large. If you ever have any questions about any of them, certainly please feel free to ask me or Kim, but that's why we separated them out that way.
And specifically, the reason I lumped all the fundraising accounts together is you'd have about 10 more pages of individual grants.
Now we want to open the floor for this one. Did I see some questions on this side? Sure, Mr. Krim.
Yeah, just want to say thank you for putting this together. It's definitely on the lines of exactly what I was looking for, and definitely makes it a lot easier to understand and to look at versus looking at a giant, book of other grants. So thank you, definitely appreciate that. I guess one question, is it possible to have is this to date, I'm assuming the 430 is to date of what we spent and encumbered. Can we break out spent and encumbered into two categories, as spent and encumbered?
Yeah. Sure can.
And then I guess to show kind of where we are at on budget of I guess I'm not exactly sure how we can work on the side on this one too. So, but I guess to show where we are at spent versus budgeted for that month, or however we are showing it here.
So this is cumulative. You're asking also for maybe another slide that would show month only, spent during the month?
I'll have to think a little more on that.
Okay.
But no, definitely appreciate this, and thank you. That's
You're
all I had.
welcome.
Dr. Navarez-Martinez?
Yeah, so it looks like these are ordered by like general, then there's federal, and then state, and then local. But on page 3, there seems to be like a mix. Is there a reason for that?
So it's funny that you ask. Our superintendent asked the same thing. They're actually in order according to their grant number in our system. But yes, I can put them in alpha order or even lump them by local.
I want you to ask that question because I asked it too, and that's exactly right. Good, fantastic. Yeah, and of course, to give Kim credit, because again, this is what I love about ISSs and just this board in general, is we can iterate together in front of everybody to show that collegiality. I think it's probably best to put either all federal, all state, et cetera, and we can do it because like titles will be mainly federal, the number and the letter will be state. So yeah, we were all laughing, as you say, because we had the exact same conversation about 10 hours ago in this room, so it's good.
You're welcome.
Any other questions this evening, colleagues? Well, thank you. Thank you very much for this in-depth review of our grants. And this is going to be perfect timing for our preview for our budget presentation and update next week. All right. Thank you so much. I hear the superintendents talk about being in a meeting 10 hours ago, and I'm thinking about the long days that all of us had, and we are in quite a marathon of a school board meeting. For those who don't know, that we had a special meeting that actually started at 4 p.m. today. So with that being said, let's see if we have any public comment on any non-agenda items. For that, we have done. Are there any comments from the board members this evening? Dr. Rodriguez.
I have something to give to everybody.
All right. Thank you. Oh, nice. What's this? Sharing is caring.
I spent the whole day in the Latino Legislative Day. A lot of people, leaders from all over the states. We met in the Michigan Library from 8 to 3. We went also to the Capitol and talked with the legislators. I know what to talk about. I'm not going to talk about the whole thing that happened there, but I want you to go to support ethnic studies curriculum in K-12 education. And you see what the government of the state of Michigan wants to do in multicultural education. I think the Lansing School District is already moving in that direction. But that is what is going on right now. And they were talking about. And the second, they go along with the budget. If you go to the next page, and the other side of the page, you will find a student funding record high school this year is going to be the Michigan Achievement Scholarships, language access services for Michigan. You are having $2 million, and about interpreters, $800,000. We had here a lot of notification on how the money is going to. The governor were there, and also the lieutenant governor also attending. After that, we went to see the legislators, and it was a day of education for all, but definitely was political issues that we don't need to talk here, but all about education is what we want to exercise, and that was an agenda the governor and for instance, the governor already in her budget had free education from pre-K to 2 years college, and also has $80 million for students on need of bilingual education. Then I think we are moving in the state in the right direction. And I'm going to bring a book they are using in Gardner in the 5th grade. It's Don Quixote. And they are using that book selection paragraph or chapters of this great book, but what is impressive is the analysis they are doing of the characters and the interpretation of the language, the vocabulary, all the great things that we can find in this great book. And the 5th graders, then talking about how the money is producing good citizens and good students, I think that is a good example. I will bring the book that everybody can see it. But it was a great day that we were asking for spend the money for the students in the land and the state of Michigan. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Any other comments from board members this evening? All right, may I have a motion to adjourn, please? Oh, I'm sorry. It's okay. Mr. Krim?
Yeah, I just have, I guess, one thing I wanted to mention. Previously mentioned it, that if I'm going to try my best to remember DEI kind of moments and I guess bringing awareness to it. So for my little spiel today, I just wanted to mention that today is National Children's Mental Health Awareness Day. This day is observed on the Thursday of the first full week of May. It serves as a crucial reminder of the significance of every child's mental health. According to the CDC, 1 in 6 children between the ages of 2 and 8 experience a mental or behavioral disorder, with some requiring full-time care and treatment. So observing this day, remember for everyone out there is that there's a large number of our kids being affected by this, and that some of them may not have the resources available to them at home. And I guess I personally want to say I'm very proud that we are investing in those resources in the school district to allow them to have the opportunity that they might not otherwise have. And so just make sure that we're also reaching out to those around us. There's a lot of children that, don't always come forward to ask for help. So, be that hand, be that ear, allow them to know that you are there, you're the support system, and that you are available to offer that support if that they might not otherwise get. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President?
Sure, Mr. Lopez.
Just an announcement for all of you and those that are maybe looking. Memorial Weekend is Cristo Rey Fiesta weekend. So we invite everyone in the community to come over. And on Sunday, we have a special ceremony recognizing and thanking the veterans and those who are serving, those who served, and those that are in public safety. So that's on Sunday at about 1 o'clock. So everybody's invited. Come over and let's recognize our veterans and others and have a good time at the same time. Thank you.
And I think we should congratulate the 3.5 students that we had yesterday celebration. It's about more than close to 100. But every student in Lansing School District is going to graduate, and work so hard to achieve and to graduate. We are going to be congratulating them and the families for the next few days.
Yeah.
And then it was a great celebration, and I saw the 3 students' presentation was incredible. Thank you, Madam President.
Yeah, thank you. That was a great time to recognize the hard work of a lot of our students. So that was great. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Madam President, I move that the Board of Education adjourn.
It's been moved by Dr. Kavanaugh, supported by Vice President Moore. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. At 8 p.m., we are adjourned.